Welcome to the Billionaire Frequency. I'm your host, Arlind Sadiku, entrepreneur, global strategist, and cipher architect. I want to take you back a few years to a private island retreat I hosted that would permanently change the way I think about wealth, time, and legacy. The island had one unusual rule. There were no clocks, not a single one, not in the villas, not in the dining areas, not even on our phones. Before arriving, I personally invited 7 billionaires from different corners of the world, titans in tech, energy, finance, real estate, luxury, and biotech. These weren't people who needed another conference or another handshake. They came for something rare, clarity. The retreat began with a silent boat ride across waters so clear you could see the reef beneath us. There was no idle chatter, only that quiet anticipation you feel when you know something important is about to happen. When we reached the dock, staff in crisp white linen greeted each of us. They handed out engraved cards with a single line. Here, you are not bound by minutes, you are measured by moves. We placed our phones in velvet-lined boxes. No time notifications, no alerts, no distractions. This wasn't a vacation. It was an experiment in living above the clock. By the second day, I started to notice something extraordinary. Conversations didn't have end times. There was no rushing to the next meeting. One guest, a billionaire from Singapore who'd built a global shipping empire, spent 4 uninterrupted hours sketching a trade route concept on paper. When he finished, that drawing became the seed of a deal worth hundreds of millions. Another, a woman who had revolutionized biotech, told me over fresh-caught lunch, "Arlind, the minute you stop counting hours is the minute you start creating things that outlive you." It was in that silence that I realized billionaires don't trade time for money. They trade decisions for results. Every night we met for dinner under an open sky lit with more stars than I'd ever seen. The table was set in the sand, candles flickering in the warm breeze. These weren't polite business dinners, they were strategy councils. We talked about controlling supply chains from end to end. We talked about insulating wealth against economic collapse. We talked about how to buy back decades of your life through ownership and automation. One of the guests, an investor who'd built and sold companies on 4 continents, leaned over and said, "The middle class is obsessed with income. The wealthy are obsessed with control. But the ultra-wealthy, we're obsessed with time." On the last morning, I walked along the shoreline before sunrise. The sand was cool, the tide slow and steady. One by one, the guests joined me. No rush, no agenda. We spoke about legacy, not profit. We mapped out ideas that could change industries. Before leaving, one of the oldest guests, a man who had once owned half a country's telecommunications network, handed me a folded note. Inside, in neat handwriting, it said, "You can make more money, you can't make more time, but you can decide how it's spent." That one sentence has stayed with me for years. I host these regularly in all the corners of the world with different individuals by invitation. You can also take part on the next round by visiting my website, arlindsadiku.com. That retreat was more than just an event. It was a living demonstration of the principles I now share in the Cipher Code. In that book, I have distilled the same frameworks and mental models we used on that island, the ones billionaires apply daily but rarely speak about publicly. If you want to think beyond the clock, if you want to design a life where time serves you instead of the other way around, this is where you begin. Go to arlindsadiku.com or Amazon, get your copy today, and start operating on the billionaire frequency. Because once you learn to stop counting hours, you start counting moves. Until next time, stay motivated.